You ever think about the ocean and how little we actually know about it? We map the stars better than we do the deep sea. And out there, far from land, far from help, some stories never make it back. No headlines, no memorials, just quiet and questions, floating on salt water, somewhere between truth and oblivion. Some nights I think about that, about the kind of silence that doesn't just mean empty, but haunted. And if you've ever wondered, what might be drifting out there, forgotten by time, left to rot under the sun and salt, then this story is one you're going to want to hear. Because in 1947, somewhere in the Strait of Malacca, a strange message crackled over the radio. Short, broken, terrified. And when help finally arrived, what they found was something no one ever forgot. Even though no one could explain it. Even today. If mysteries like this speak to you, if you find yourself drawn to stories that leave more questions than answers, then I invite you to stick around. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't. And drop a comment at the end. I'd love to hear what you think happened. Because right now, we're stepping into one of the strangest, most chilling maritime stories never fully told. This is the story of the SS Ourang Medan, a ghost ship that emerged from the mist, with no survivors, no clear cause, and no place in reality as we know it. The first whispers of the Ourang Medan came from a distress call. It was 1947. A merchant ship, the SS Silver Star, was crossing the calm waters of the Strait of Malacca between Sumatra and Malaysia. That's when the strange signal came through. At first, it was just static. Then, a voice, panicked, strained, broken, cut through the noise. All officers, including the captain, are dead. Lying in chartroom and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. I die. That was it. No coordinates, no details. Just that. A fading transmission, like a final breath sent out across the sea. The Silver Star immediately changed course. They triangulated the source and headed toward it. No one on board knew what they were about to find. When they spotted the Ourang Medan, it was adrift. Still, no signs of struggle, no signs of life. The ship wasn't even visibly damaged. It just sat there, motionless, like it had been waiting. The crew of the Silver Star boarded with caution, and what they found was most unnatural. Every crew member aboard the Ourang Medan was dead, lying on their backs, eyes wide open, mouths frozen in silent screams. Some looked like they were trying to claw at something. Others were slumped in corners, hands gripped around nothing. No wounds, no blood, just terror, etched deep into every face. Even the ship's dog was found dead, teeth bared, mid-snarl, like it had seen something that didn't belong in this world. Below deck, the air was heavy, almost suffocating. The bodies weren't decomposed, despite the tropical heat, which only made it stranger. There was no sign of a struggle, no smoke, no fire, no reason. And just when the crew of the Silver Star decided to tow the ship back to port, a fire broke out in the cargo hold. Sudden, violent, unexplainable. They barely had time to escape. Within minutes, the Ourang Medan exploded, vanished beneath the sea. Gone. Just like that. Leaving nothing but questions in its wake. Before the fire, before the explosion, before the sea swallowed every trace of the Ourang Medan, there was that radio message. Just a few broken sentences, but those words still echo through maritime legend. All officers, including the captain, are dead. Lying in chartroom and bridge, possibly whole crew dead. I die. Some say the voice on the radio sounded robotic, as if the speaker was barely conscious. Others claimed it trembled, filled with fear, like a man watching something unspeakable approach. But everyone agrees on this. The message wasn't normal. It didn't follow protocol. It wasn't a mayday. It was more like a confession, a warning. A last gasp of terror from someone who knew they wouldn't make it out. And here's the strange part. The signal was strong, but no one could trace its exact origin. The Silver Star managed to locate it roughly, but no official coordinates were ever confirmed. Even radio experts later said the frequency seemed off, like it came from older, unregistered equipment. And then there's the final line. I die. Not we're sinking, not need help. Just those two words. Cold, resigned. Like someone watching death walk through the door. Some have speculated that it wasn't even English, that it might have been translated. Others believe the speaker might have been hallucinating or affected by some gas or neurological event. But then again, how does an entire crew die in unison, with no signs of injury, no struggle, no apparent cause? It's one thing for a ship to sink. It's another for it to turn into a floating morgue, broadcasting a cry for help that even now, decades later, feels more like a ghostly echo than a real distress call. Was it poison? Panic? A mass psychotic break? Or was that voice not meant for rescue at all, but for whoever was listening? After the Ourang Medan sank, there was no wreckage to study, no cargo manifest, no black box, just that eerie message and the accounts of the Silver Star's crew. But humans don't like loose ends, and over the years, many tried to explain what happened, to wrap something neat and logical around something that never felt either. The most popular theory? Carbon monoxide poisoning. Some believe that a leak in the ship's boiler system released toxic fumes, slowly suffocating the crew. It makes a kind of sense. Invisible gas, panic, hallucinations, death. But if it was carbon monoxide, why were their faces twisted in fear? Why were their arms raised, like shielding themselves from something? Carbon monoxide puts people to sleep. It doesn't freeze their faces in horror. And what about the bodies? They hadn't decomposed, not even in the tropical heat, as if time had paused. Another idea: explosive chemicals. Some speculate the Ourang Medan was carrying nitroglycerin or other unstable cargo. Maybe there was a leak. Fumes filled the ship, poisoned the crew, and later ignited, causing the explosion. But if that's true, why risk sending a distress call? Why not evacuate? And again, there was no evidence. No shipping records, no survivors, no debris. Then there's the rogue wave theory. A sudden wall of water crashing into the ship, killing the crew with brute force. But again, no damage. No trauma on the bodies, no flooding. Some turn to darker possibilities. Pirates. Maybe the crew was attacked, poisoned, and abandoned, but there were no signs of theft, no blood, no bullet wounds, nothing missing. Sabotage? Maybe. But who and why? And again, nothing adds up. Every theory leads to a dead end. No explanation fits all the facts. None account for the fear on those faces, the condition of the ship, or why a fire would suddenly erupt, conveniently destroying the evidence. It's as if the ocean itself wasn't ready for us to know. And maybe we were never supposed to. When logic runs out, the mind reaches for something older, something deeper, something we don't have to prove to feel is real. That's when the whispers began. Theories no longer grounded in science, but in something colder, something darker, Some say the SS Ourang Medan was cursed, that it was smuggling ancient relics or forbidden artifacts, objects never meant to leave the earth they were buried in. Others believe the ship crossed into a place it shouldn't have, a pocket in the ocean where reality thins, where the veil between this world and the next wears thin. There are stories passed between sailors about ships that vanish for days, then return with no crew and no answers. Stories of unnatural calm, of ice-cold air in the tropics, and radios crackling with voices that don't belong. Some even say the crew didn't die, but saw something they weren't meant to witness. And that kind of sight doesn't leave you breathing. The sea has always held secrets. In every culture, from Polynesia to Scandinavia, there are legends of ghost ships, vessels adrift, doomed to sail forever, carrying the dead and the cursed. The Ourang Medan fits that pattern all too well, too quiet, too complete, too impossible. And maybe that's why this story never truly faded, even without photos, even without survivors, even without proof, because something in us knows when a story rings true, even if it's wrapped in shadow. Today, the Ourang Medan is part of maritime folklore, but not the kind you find in museums or textbooks. No, this is the kind whispered by old men in port bars, shared in late-night Coast Guard shifts, or found in quiet corners of the internet, where mystery still lives. So now I'll ask you, not as a host, but as someone who also can't stop thinking about it. What do you think happened on that ship? Do you believe it was gas, sabotage, something supernatural? Or maybe some things are just not meant to be understood. Maybe the sea doesn't always give back what it takes. And maybe that's exactly why we keep listening. Comment below. Tell me what you think happened. And if these stories stayed with you, like subscribe and follow for more mysteries, just like this one. We're not done. There are always more questions. And on this channel, we'll keep asking them together.